to Distance Education. My name is Greg Weaver, and this is ENG4E, Grade 12 Workplace English. I'd like to welcome everyone listening across the North State at Home Your Learning Center or in Bell Expressview to call and join our class. You can call 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017 or 2983 in the Sulaco, Lac Seul, or Dryden areas. I'd like to welcome everyone back to class this afternoon. This is a pre-recorded class. I'm currently in Pekanjigam doing our grand open house. And we will be not back until probably about 9 o'clock tonight. So the class is being pre-recorded, and it will be broadcast at that time. I'm currently Friday afternoon when I'm recording it. What we're doing today, we're going to be finishing off lesson number 1. So we are going to be looking at some key questions, as well as doing our last big writing project for this unit. And we're going to be creating a brochure. And before we do that, we're going to do a quick review we looked at before. So we ended class yesterday by looking at a article called Learning to Work Safely. And so what we did once we looked at this is before we read it, we looked at some pre-reading questions. You can find those questions at the top of page 43. So before we read it, we looked at just do you agree or disagree with this statement? And so what we did, before we read it, we went through this highlight. Do you agree or disagree with that? Now that we've read the article, our knowledge and our views have changed. So when we look at that, we are going to consider whether we were right or not. So we had 4 statements that we read over and made a decision on. We'll bring back those answers now. You can see I highlight the answers in yellow before I read the article. Now we've read it, I want to think about that a bit. So it says young people between the ages of 12 and 24 are at the highest risk of being hurt or killed on the job. Do you agree or disagree with that? When we did our article, we said we disagreed. And now we're looking at, when we read the article, we find out that we actually should be that's agree. It's actually right. Workers between 12 and 24 are at the highest risk of being killed or injured on the job. Our next statement was, you have the right to refuse to do work that you think is unsafe. And that's agree as well. That's actually, you have a right to refuse unsafe work. Work you're not trained for. You need more training in. Our third statement is people who work in the fast food industry are at a low risk of being hurt or killed on the job. So we said we disagree with that one, and that's actually, we do disagree. There's a very high risk of being hurt or killed, or being hurt on the job. There's so much going on there, and there's not a lot of training normally given, so that's a really big concern. And then finally, our last one is, it's the employer's responsibility to train workers in safety procedures. And that's actually true. That's an agree as well. That's true. It's never the worker's responsibility to be trained. It's the employer has to provide the training. If they're paying them and they're having to do the job, they have to provide the training for that job. So we looked at those. So what we're going to do now is we're going to scroll down a bit. We're going to go back to page 49 and look at the thesis statement of this article. So this article is written in an essay style. It has a statement that clearly indicates the purpose of this article. This kind of statement is called the thesis or the main argument. So the thesis, the main argument in this article, is the statement in the last sentence of that first paragraph, where it says people want to make young people aware that workplaces can be dangerous. So like an essay, this article develops its thesis in many different methods. You want to try and find an example of the following. So there's 5 examples here that we're going to try and find examples for. So we're going to do this together before we get into key question 16. So, for example, stats regarding young workers. So we're looking for stats. There's stats all through this article. When we look at the very first page, there's stats regarding young workers. So we have that in 1999, 16 young people were killed on the job. And that's at the very beginning of the article on page 43 in the 3rd paragraph down. Next, we're trying to find. Now, there's a lot more stats in here. I just did the one, just as the example. Now, look for some examples of injury. Now, there's a paragraph right below on page 4 that gives a list of injuries, but I want to go a bit deeper, see what else we can find. So, we look at page 44, on that photo. Examples of injuries. Well, there's carpal tunnel syndrome. Working as a cashier. Other examples include so just doing a quick read through here. So now go back and look at page. So other examples we have there include burns, cuts, punctures, and bruises. So real life stories. So what are some examples you saw? I'll give some names. There's Sean Kells, who was killed when he was pouring liquor from one barrel to another, as well as him, and he was. There's also David Ellis, who was killed in an industrial bread maker on his 2nd day on the job. So the next one we're looking at is programs education. Well, what programs are out there? Well, the big one we look at, and the focus in this article, is the Young Worker Awareness Program. Another one is the Passport, and these are all towards the end of the program. Passport to Safety. And last one is Expert Opinions. These are the people who they interview and talk to in this. So I'm going to go look at towards the latter part of the article, towards the end. Look at some expert opinions. So we have, on page 47, we have John Van Leith, who also looks at, works out of Oakville. And there's another guy at page 48 called Tom Sayer, who works as part of the Safe Communities Coalition in Peterborough. So there's some of the expert opinions that exist. And that leads us into key question 16. Now, these are just 4 questions, and these are built around what you just read in the article. So I'm going to read them over. They're each worth 3 marks. So it says, answer the following questions in sentence form. So number 1 is, why is the government focusing on the safety of young workers? Number 2 is, state 3 ways in which the youth of Ontario are being educated about safety in the workplace. Number 3 says, what is the International Day of Mourning? And then number 4 is, what obligations does an employer have to his or her employees regarding their safety? So those are 4 questions. They're each worth 3 marks. So what I want to do now, I want to give you a chance to actually complete these questions. These are really easy. They're pretty straightforward, but they form some of the basis for what we're going to look at later on in the lesson. So I want to give you about 5 minutes or so to complete this. So we're going to take about a 5-minute break. I want you to just work on finishing these questions up. Hand them in right away, and then we will keep going, and we'll look at some idea of personal safety, and then look into our last key question. So take about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back, and I will talk to you, and then. So I'll talk to you in a bit. A chance to get going with these questions. If you have any questions, I will be back in town later today. I should be back probably about 9 o'clock or so, so you can always send me a text, Facebook, or email me. I'll get it then. Additionally, I will be in the office the rest of the week, Tuesday or Friday, my normal hours, so you can always get a hold of me then. So look at next, personal safety. So you should now have a good understanding of the importance of physical safety on the job. So making sure that you are safe at work. Another aspect of safety is personal safety. Personal safety means that an employee's rights are respected. One of the most important rights is the right to have a workplace that's free of harassment. In order to be aware of what harassment can look like in the workplace, read the following interview questions and then indicate whether you think that they are a relevant question to ask on a resume or in an interview, or they are irrelevant or they're not appropriate to ask. So we're going to do this together on the smartboard here so you can see exactly what I'm writing. So I'm going to read the question, then we're going to talk about it. before we say whether put an R for it's relevant or it's a good question to ask, or IR, or saying it's irrelevant or it's not a good question to ask. So the first question says, why do you want to work here? Now think, would that be a good question for an employer to ask? Or would that be a kind of the wrong kind of question for an employer to ask? So if we think about that, that's a fair question. It's important for them to know that. So we can put a big R there for relevant. So our next question says, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend? Now, is there any possible reason why an employer should ask about your personal life? The answer is no. So, asking, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend? That would be an irrelevant or IR. Irrelevant question. It doesn't matter. It's not an appropriate question to ask. It won't affect how you do the job. The next question says, what are your strengths? What are you good at? So we're going to say that is a relevant question. That's an important question to ask. When we get into lesson 20, the very last lesson in this course, we'll come back to interview questions again and look at what are some good questions to ask, what are some maybe not so good questions, and how can you answer these questions to the best of your ability in order to do your best to earn that job. So number 4 says, tell me about a time when you showed leadership. So, that's when you showed leadership. Is that a relevant question or irrelevant question? So if we think about it, that's pretty relevant. Because they want to know if you can take leadership, you can take charge if needed. If someone calls sick, they want to see if you can become the manager, can run the store or wherever you're working. So that's relevant. Have you ever worked unsupervised or without someone looking over your shoulder? Just like the first question, throwing the one before about leadership, that's relevant. That's a pretty good question for an employer to ask you. Next one, do you have any body piercings or tattoos? Does that matter about how you do your job? No, it doesn't. That's irrelevant. Now, one thing that employers can require is that any visible tattoos are covered. So say if you have a tattoo on your lower leg or you have a tattoo on your arm, they can ask that be covered while you're at work. Also, any piercings, depending on where you're working, any visible piercings or any jewelry, depending on where you're working, they can ask that require that be removed. I used to work in a factory. We couldn't have any jewelry on when we were working because they're worried about that stuff getting to the machines, possibly breaking the machines or contaminating the products. So they can require that. Next question says, tell me where you've worked before. So asking about your work history. That would be a relevant question. That's a good question for them to ask. Next one says, where do you party on the weekends? Once again, why would that affect what you do? So that's an irrelevant question. It doesn't matter. The last one there, or second last one there says, what subjects do you enjoy doing in school? So what subjects do you enjoy? Now, is that relevant or irrelevant? This one is kind of in the middle. Depending on how it's phrased and what the context is, it's either could be irrelevant or it could be relevant. We're gonna say that it is relevant because they may want to know, what do you enjoy? Do you enjoy math? Do you enjoy food and nutrition if you're working in a restaurant or you're looking at a cashier? Um, and the last one there is, how do you plan to spend your wages? Once again, they cannot ask you anything personal about your life. How you choose to spend your money is completely up to you. It doesn't matter, so it's irrelevant. So of all these questions, we had 4 irrelevant and 6 relevant. So with that in mind, we're going to jump into key question 17. Now, key question 17, I'm just going to have to clear this off so the stuff won't carry down, so we'll clear this. And it says, read the following job description and complete the graphic organizers to indicate the safety issues that you would need to ask about, the advantages or disadvantages from the job, and the personal qualities you would need or you think you would need to be a good match for the job. So job posting is, Joe's Restaurant is looking for a student to work weeknight evenings, Monday to Friday from 6 till 10. There was a possibility of additional hours on the weekends. Minimum wage plus 2% of all tips collected during shift. Main duties will include clearing tables and setting tables, loading and unloading the dishwasher, and preparation of salads. This job requires you to work as part of a team to ensure that the customers are satisfied with the service that they receive in the restaurant. Customer evaluations will be taken into consideration when promoting workers. Please drop off resumes at the restaurant and interviews will be scheduled at a later date. So that's our job posting. So we have next is a chart, 3 charts here that you have to fill in. So looking at health and safety concerns and what questions could be asked, personal qualities required and evidence of that, and the advantage and disadvantages. What you're doing with this, you're filling in the left side first, and then the right side, then left side, then right side, left side, right side. So you want to think of what are some possible health and safety concerns. So think of what could be some possible concerns there. So possible concern could be training. And the question we asked is, what training will I get? Could be, now it could be safety. So what particular tools will I use? So things like that. So try to think of 2 more of those. Look at the next one. What will be some personal qualities that you think would really be needed for this job? Well, one would be time management. Being able to manage time, because you're not going to have a lot of time to do homework at night if you're working Monday to Friday, not 6 to 10. So how could you prove good time management skills? Something like ability to multitask. That'd be one example. So think of some different qualities you would need and how you can demonstrate those qualities. And what are some advantages and disadvantages of taking this job? That's the first one. That's what I was at the last one there. So what are some advantages? Well, the extra money, less time to do homework. Another advantage would be experience, less time with friends. So things like that. So those are some examples there. What I would like you to do is to fill in the rest of this chart. So we'll take about another, let's say 5 minutes or so, not that much time. And we'll get this finished off, and then we'll jump into our last key question, which we'll spend the rest of the time doing. And then we will, if we have time in the class, we'll do a quick review of everything. If not, we'll do a quick review on next on class tomorrow on Tuesday. So, reminder, for those students just joining in late, this is a pre-recorded class for ENG4E. I'm currently traveling to Pekanjigum, and this class is being recorded on Friday afternoon. So we'll take about a 5-minute break, and we'll come back after that. I'll talk to you then. Chance to get started with this key question 17. What we're doing now, we're going to jump into our very last key question, and we are going to be looking at creating a brochure, taking all the stuff we just learned over this lesson and lesson 4, and putting it into a way that you can show how well you understood it. So what we're going to be doing is create a brochure. So using the knowledge you've learned, create a brochure. It's being given out to newly hired or to young workers. Your brochure should outline how to work safely on a job and make it pretty general. You don't know what kind of job people are going to be working, so try and make it pretty general. So to create the brochure, you want to find a blank piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. This is common size of paper, or you can do it on the computer. So first one, use the paper. Size paper is the paper that you have in front of you for your unit. So I turn the paper sideways and then fold the piece of paper into 3 equal sections lengthwise. This will create 6 panels, 3 on the front and 3 on the back. The panels will be longer than they are wide, so it's going to look like this. You can have on the front, you're going to have three panels. We've numbered 5, 6, and 1, and 3 back panels numbered 2, 3, and 4. And I'll show you what it looks like on a computer in a bit. So first, want to create the rough draft. Use pencil and sketching where your illustrations are going to go. It's important that you write down all of your information in the order to make sure it's corrected before you do your final draft. Hand in your rough copy when you complete your good copy. The reason I do the rough copy is I don't want to see any eraser marks, any whiteout, anything like that on your good draft. If you're doing it on a computer, do your good draft just on lined paper. Actually, I'm really doing that on paper or on the computer. Do your rough draft just on lined paper. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's just something just to lay out, just so you know exactly where things are going to go. Once you've done that, you're going to do your good copy. So use ink to write your brochure out, or use a computer. You can use computer pictures, magazine cutouts, or your own original drawings as visuals to include in your brochure. Don't forget to add color to make your brochure visually interesting. Be sure to include the following in your brochure. What are the employees' workplace physical safety rights? What do they have the right to do? B is the employee's workplace personal rights. Those two are a bit different. You can find the information on that website that we looked at in lesson 4, as well as a bit in what we looked at in this article. C is associations or people you can contact for more information. You can find these on the resources page on the website, as well as just through Google. Do a bit of research. D is instructions on what type of interview questions are appropriate with examples. We just did that just in this lesson. And then what young workers need to know in order to be safe. So you see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 different ideas. What we're going to do, I'm going to show you right now on the example that's at the top of page 53. Where you could put these different areas. So the first one, your number 1 is going to be your front cover. That's your title page. You're just going to have nothing's going to go on that one. Number 2 is the first panel they're going to look at that has writing on it. So in the second panel, you want to choose what's one of the most important things in there. So we're going to put, you could put 2, and I'm going to put letter A here. This corresponds with the employee's workplace physical safety rights. So put that there. So it's 2A. And for our middle panel there, we'll go for B, an employee's workplace personal rights. And then 4, instead, we're going to go with part E, which is what do young workers need to know. That's the 3 really important things. Those are 3 things you want people to see right away when they open your brochure. If you want to rearrange in a different order, you can. It's up to you. It's just a suggestion to help you organize your information better. So it still leaves us C and D. So C says associations to contact with further information, and D is what kind of interview questions are appropriate. So we'll put D, or the part about the interview questions, right there. So that's what they're going to see before when they start close their end. They're going to see that right there, and then the further information or the contact information you can put on this last panel here. So that's going to be C. So 2A, 3B, 4E, 5D, 6C. And number 1 is just your regular title page. So what you want to do now is you want to do your rough draft. Find your information. Do it. All this can be done in point form. It doesn't need to be done in sentences and paragraphs. It can be done in point form. If you want to do it using a computer, you can find that by going to File and going down here to New. And then it's giving you an option here. I'm going to go for Brochures and Booklets. And you will look for a 3-panel one. So for example, we have example here for a business brochure. So that's going to look just like this. So this would be, when you look at this panel here, where the mouse is, this would be panel 5. So this is panel 5. So my pen doesn't want to work here, so we'll do it this way. This is panel 5 here. This is panel 6. And this one here will be your first panel, just looking just like that. And as you scroll down, then you have panel 2, 3, and 4. So you have 2, 3, and 4. Those will be your different panels there. If you don't like this layout, you go back to File, and you can find other ones there. That was just one example. It's File, New. The other option here is to search. The search for Go Brochure. And I'll give you examples here as well. Let's be another example. This is designed for kind of a travel brochure. So once again, the way it's laid out. Oh, never mind. This is laid out as a 2-panel one, not a 3-panel one. Then we go New. So you can find brochures in here. So you have your introduction here. Your number 1 panel is here. This would be number 6. This one here is 5. And then you have 2, 3, 4. So that's what you can just do, and then you can just delete this information here and just start writing it. So that's your example of how to do your brochure. Now, going back into our unit now, on the very last page, on page 54, this is how you are going to be marked on your brochure. It is out of 50 marks. And this is called a rubric. You'll see there's different things from 0 to 5, 6 to 7, 8 to 9, and then 10 to 12. That's for the different areas that you're going to be I'm going to look at when I mark this. So you can see all the different categories there and what's there. So that is where we will end for tonight. We're back at our normal time again tomorrow. I'll be back from Cancun. We'll be good to go. Any questions, you can send to me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Other than that, everyone has a good night, and I'll talk to everyone again tomorrow. Till then, miigwech, and bye for now.